So in this video, I want to teach you how while loops work. So I've created a class called whileloopexample.java. And if you want to go ahead and open up your IDE, if you have Genie or NetBeans or whatever, and if you want to type this out with me, that might be more beneficial. If you have two monitors, you can put this video on one monitor and type in the other. But if you just want to watch, that's fine too. All right, so let's go ahead and make a public class. And I have to name it while loop example. And let's go ahead and make a main method. Okay. Now exactly what do I want my program to accomplish? Well, I'm going to make this pretty simple. I want the ability to enter a radius, and the program will calculate the area of the circle for me. Now, I want to just be able to keep doing this until I give a signal that I want the program to stop, okay? So let's make a couple of variables. I'm going to have a double called r, and that's going to be the radius. Now because I want to read this in from the keyboard, I'm also going to want to import the scanner class. So import java.util.scanner, and this is going to give me the functionality of being able to type in values from the keyboard. So I create a reader object, just like we always do when we want to read in things from the keyboard. That's a very common thing that we do. So okay, I've created a reader, and I've created a double named radius. Now, I'm also going to create a Boolean, which is simply a true or false value. I'm going to name this Boolean exit, so that's the identifier. And for right now, I'm going to set it equal to false. Boolean exit is false. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to say while, and then I hit tab, and my IDE here, Genie, fills out the rest for me. And I'm going to say while not exit. Now what does that mean? The exclamation point is the not operator, N-O-T. And what it does is it takes the opposite of this value here. So exit's currently false, so the opposite of false is true. And so this is the first thing you need to know about while loops. What has to be inside here in the parentheses has to evaluate to a Boolean expression. Now a Boolean expression is an expression that is either true or false. So knowing that this has to be a Boolean value, either true or false, is important. Let me show you some things that wouldn't work. So for example, let's say I had the following, r equals 2. Well, a beginning programmer might think that this loop would run as long as the radius was equal to 2. But there's a problem here. 1 equal sign isn't the logical operator, it's the assignment operator. So this is trying to set the radius equal to 2. It's not making a judgment, a true or false judgment on whether the radius is 2. Okay, so to turn this to a logical operator, we would type the logical equals. And now this is a comparison rather than an assignment. Is the radius logically equal to 2? So that would either return true or false. And the only way the while loop would even begin to work is if the value on the inside is true. So if the value on the inside is ever false, the while loop won't run, or if the condition becomes false, then the while loop will cease to run. So okay, let me go ahead and type not exit again. So right now, since exit is false, not exit is true. And so the while loop will continue to run as long as it's true. Now if I was to compile and execute my code right now, I would be trapped in an infinite loop. In other words, the while loop would continually run doing nothing, right? Because there's no code here, do nothing. So it would continue to do that because exit never switches its value. Okay, what did I want my program to accomplish? I wanted my program to accomplish the following task. I want the user to enter a radius, and then from that I want to calculate the area. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to say enter a radius, and then I'm going to use the concatenation operator. Excuse me, not the concatenation operator. I'm now going to read in that value. So r equals reader dot next double. So it reads in the radius. And then what it does is it says system.out.println. And then what it says here is the area is, and this is where I'm going to use the concatenation operator. Got to use the math class .pi times r. And then I'm just going to enter the following, a new line, so it just separates it by a line. And now, if I was to run this program as it is, it would do a pretty good job. As a matter of fact, let me just show it to you. Let me go ahead and compile it. And now let's go ahead and run it. So it says enter a radius, so I type in 2. Okay, it tells me the area. Enter a radius, so I type 5. It gives me the area. 1, 7, 23. But there's a problem now. The program's never going to stop. And the reason is because exit never changes value. So you got to be really careful when you make a while loop, because whatever control you're putting inside the parentheses here, whatever condition you're putting inside here, you want to make sure that it actually has a chance to switch so that you can exit the loop. So right here, I'm going to type in the following. It says enter radius and then a negative number to quit. Now at this stage, it's still not going to change the value of exit. All this does is this gives a prompt to the user to let the user know what they should do in order to quit the program. So I read in the double value into R, and I'm going to add an if statement here now. If, well, if what? If R is less than 0, then exit equals true. What does that say now about not exit? Not exit would become false. Else, and now let's take this code here, cut it, and let's put it in the else statement. And just for laughs and giggles, let's make this less than or equal to 0. Because if I enter 0 for the radius, that doesn't really give me a very interesting area, does it? So a negative number or 0 to quit. This now puts a control on the condition. So if the user enters a negative number or 0, the program will know to quit. So I compile, I execute, enter a radius, 5. Hey, there's the area of the circle, 2.3, negative 3, and the program quit. And that's the nature of a while loop. A while loop has a body, a beginning and an ending curly brace. It has a set of parentheses, and what you need to know as a beginning programmer is that inside the parentheses has to be a condition that always evaluates to true or false. Always evaluates to true or false. So before I stop the video, let's just really quickly talk about different operators that can give you booleans. Logical equals gives you a boolean. Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So those are comparison operators. Now you can only use the last 4 comparison operators on data types that can be numbers, right? That really makes sense because if they're numbers, the numbers are ordered. So if it's an int or a double or a float or even a character, you normally think of those as numbers, but every character on the keyboard is actually a number, okay? Bytes, those kinds of things, maybe some data types we haven't talked about, but anything that can be evaluated to a number can be comparable using these. This right here works on numbers, but this also works on booleans right here. This part works on booleans. So booleans are not ordered. true doesn't come before false, false doesn't necessarily come after true. So you can't really say a true value is less than a false value, right? That wouldn't make sense. But you can say, is something that's true equal to something that's false? Well, it's not, so that it would return a false statement. All right, that's the basics of how a while loop works. Hope this was a little bit helpful. God bless you, wherever you are today.